I don't remember who. It's been almost 32 years ago since I was in seminary in Chicago. But one of our seminary professors worked hard to impress upon us that as pastors, we had to make sure that we prepared ourselves for the preaching each week. And his fear was, or her fear was, and I don't remember who it was, and Sharon didn't remember either. We didn't have all the same classes, so she and I took different classes, different preaching classes. It may have been a preaching professor. I don't know who it was, but one professor impressed upon us that it was a concern that they had that we would, if we didn't prepare, we would have one sermon that we spun out in a variety of ways. And every passage that we would come to would be the same sermon if we didn't prepare. It's a legitimate concern. And if you've been around for any length of time, a couple of Sundays even, you might think that I have only one sermon. Not that I preach the same sermon week in and week out or use the same examples week in and week out, because I don't. In fact, I have very rarely gone back and preached a sermon I preached even a couple of years ago again. And I guarantee you I wouldn't go back 32 years or 30 years and preach a sermon that I preached back then now. Because I've grown, I've changed, my perspective, my relationship with Christ has deepened. But the message that the sermons have, you might say, has a singular focus. If you're a Facebook friend of mine, you see that message shared in countless ways and always attached to, why didn't I do it? A sunflower picture that I have taken. In fact, I have some Facebook friends. Yeah, Kelly has a sunflower and a butterfly. That's the one I posted today. Not that picture, but a sunflower picture and a butterfly. I have a Facebook friend I've never met. She's from Denton, and she became my Facebook friend because of my sunflower pictures, and she calls me the sunflower pastor. And it has become a way for me to share this message. And I started doing that a number of years ago because I love sunflowers. I think when you look at a field of sunflowers or you look at a single sunflower, it radiates joy, it radiates happiness, it radiates love. There's just so much beauty in a sunflower unless it's dying. And I just absolutely love sunflowers. And I think they bring smiles. And they catch your attention. When you see a sunflower, you know that you've seen a sunflower. Because it's bright. It's cheery. And the message that I attach to them always has to do with what you might say is my singular message, my singular sermon. And that is that love needs to be demonstrated in our lives. It needs to be tangible. If you learn nothing else from me, I hope that you'll learn this. I hope that you will learn that Jesus loves you, and He wants to give love to you in a way that makes a difference in the world. He doesn't love you so that you can hoard that love or hang on to it. He loves you so that you can share that love wherever you are, in all kinds of tangible ways in your life. That's my one message. We've had it on the wall for years. Receive love, give love, repeat, it used to say, and recently we changed it to become love. That's my one message. And if you study the life and teachings of Jesus in the Bible, you will see that it was His one message too, and that's why it's my one message. He came to earth in the flesh to demonstrate God's love for us, for you, for all people. In our passage today, John makes it clear that love is what Jesus is about. He opens the chapter with an emphasis on love. He says, and I quote, Jesus had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. You see, knowing that the time for his departure was drawing near, Jesus knew that the success of his ministry and its future would stand squarely on the shoulders of his followers. So John tells us Jesus did something shocking to get a point across. He did something totally unexpected, something that he hoped would cement his message in the lives of his followers. Listen to what John says. Pastor Sharon already read it, but I'm going to read it again, beginning in verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, poured water in a basin, and then he began to wash his disciples' feet and dried them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He girded himself with a towel to demonstrate love for his disciples, to make love tangible. Peter knew that a rabbi shouldn't be stooping in that position to wash feet. That was a role that a servant had in the house where you came. Their feet were dirty. Their feet were smelly. They didn't have shoes. They didn't have closed shoes. They didn't have socks. They wore sandals. They walked around in dusty environment. And I imagine that their feet were a sight to behold. And so you can sense why Peter was indignant that Jesus was girding himself with a towel and stooping to do something that a respectable rabbi wouldn't do. And yet there he was doing that. And then, after he washed their feet, Jesus said this. He put on his robe and he sat down again and he asked them, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. Do as I have done to you, says Jesus. Is he talking about us going around washing one another's feet? No. That was just an illustration. That was just a way to get their attention. It was about making love tangible. Now, every year here at Community of Joy, in Holy Week, especially on the Thursday before Easter, we do have a love feast and feet washing service, and you all are welcome to join. It's a simple meal. We sit around tables and eat together and have a time of worship. It's a little more reflective. The music's a little more somber. We reflect on this act of love that Jesus demonstrates for each of us and the world. After we eat the meal, we have an opportunity to wash one another's feet. We also have a hand washing station. And it's not mandatory that you do that, but we just do that as a way of reenacting, reminding us of the love that God has for us that is tangible. And then we share in communion. And that's coming up on April 18th at 6:30. Like I said, you're all invited to join us, and it's a high and holy time to go through that. But even though we do that in a worship gathering, that is not really what Jesus intended. He really wants us to embody love. That's what he's trying to get across to us. And that love must be tangible. And our lives must demonstrate that love for other people. That's why I also included in this reading this morning verses 34 and 35. Jesus, I think, summarizes this act of feet washing in these words. He says, "So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." Jesus makes it clear, brothers and sisters, that love must become tangible. It's more than talked about. It's easy to talk about love. We throw that word around like it's nothing. We sign our emails, our text messages, love you, love you. We say it in the morning when we go out the door. We talk about love all the time. But talking about it and doing it, they're two entirely different things. It must be demonstrated. Love must be tangible. As followers of Jesus, we are to become love with skin on. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to note about tangible love. First is that tangible love is other-focused. It's not about you. It's about others. It is about you receiving the love of God in your life and then sharing that love, giving that love to others. Yes, God loves you, but His love is not for us to hoard. It is for you to share, to give. God's love is to be shared in tangible ways, demonstrated. And the possibilities of doing that are endless. They can cost great sums of money or they can cost nothing. But they're always other-focused. I like to say, if you see someone that has a need and you can meet that need, do it. It's an act of love. We don't have to do big things to demonstrate God's love. You know, when you're walking down the street or you're walking in the mall or you're walking into a store, when you come up to somebody and you're about to walk past them, do you look at them in the eyes? Do you try to engage them? Most often we don't. Most often we kind of look down or look away or kind of stare off into the distance. And if you are walking into an environment where you're facing somebody, smile at them. And if they're not looking, if you would just say good morning or good afternoon or good evening. Now don't say, hello, how are you? Because we know in our culture when we say how are you, we don't mean how are you. Unless, of course, you really do mean how are you, and then, be prepared to push a little bit past the pat answer that you're going to get. I'm fine. Really? How are you? I really want to know. Just that simple act of saying good morning to somebody who's not looking at you as you pass by them can change the trajectory of their day. It makes them feel noticed and valued and worthwhile. So you see, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to cost you anything. Yes, it takes a little bit of courage to get up, the ability to say good morning or good afternoon. But try it. It'll also make you feel good. You see, there's all kinds of ways that we can demonstrate love, that we can make love tangible in our lives. The second thing to note about tangible love is it's humble. Sometimes tangible love involves humbling ourselves. And that's the lesson of feet washing. That's what Jesus was getting across with using feet washing as a reminder, as an illustration of making love tangible. Serving the needs of others in ways that cause us to stoop down, in ways that remind us of our humanness and that we are lowly persons ourselves. This week, I went to the Camden Community Garden during the day while kids should have been at school. And I took my dog Sophie because I want her to get accustomed to the garden and I want her to be introduced to that environment when there aren't kids there so that she can be comfortable with it. And then when kids start being in the mix, she can handle it okay, because she gets really excited when she sees people and when she gets out in environments that she hasn't been in before. And so as soon as we got out of the truck on the playground, these 3 students from Pinehurst Elementary School were there. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and they should have been in school. And so I said, "Hey guys, why aren't you in school?" "Well, our alarm didn't get up. Our alarm didn't go off this morning, and we missed the bus, and we missed it yesterday." And so I was talking to them a little bit about that, and we were engaging, and they were enjoying Sophie, and Sophie was enjoying them. Sophie wasn't enjoying being made to lay down there and not engage with them. She wanted to be all up in their face and licking them and just enjoying being there. And then we got into a little bit of conversation, and the little boy told me that he didn't have, the other reason they didn't go to school is because he didn't have time to fix his sister's hair. Now look at their hair. The one had a hood on because she was embarrassed by what her hair looked like. And she told me that in her class, she feels that she's bullied a little bit because of what her hair looks like. So I posted that picture on Facebook, and then some staff members from Pinehurst Elementary School interacted with me about it, and I let that be known that she had felt a little bit bullied because of her hair. And it was really touching to get private messages from 2 staff persons, one who is a regular staff person at Pinehurst, who said, "I will talk to a teacher who I am sure can do something with her hair, and I'll get her to do it before school." And she messaged me back and said she had talked to her and the teacher was willing to do that. Then a second person who's a substitute at Pinehurst on occasion, who knows these kids from the garden, private messaged me and said, "Pastor, I would really like to take these 2 girls to Delmarva Beauty Academy to have their hair washed and done. Do you think that would be okay?" And I said, "That's a lovely idea, but I don't know their parents. And I don't know in this day and age if it would be a wise thing to put yourself in that predicament. I don't know." I'm sharing the story this morning because I want you to know that those 2 people reached out with an expression of tangible love that was other-focused, that had the girl's heart at stake. Now, what I'd like to do with that is I'd like to talk to the principal, and I intend to talk to the principal and see if there isn't a way that we can get some people to come in on occasion to the school and do hair. I saw it was done at Y Middle recently. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And so why can't we do that in the school day? Why should any kid feel less than special because of what their hair looks like? The third thing I want you to know about tangible love is that it is to be demonstrated, not talked about. Anybody can talk about love, but it's another thing entirely to demonstrate it. And that's what Jesus was seeking to instill in his followers. It's why he commanded it in verses 34 and 35. He knew the temptation to engage in cheap talk and not roll up our sleeves and demonstrate tangible love. Tangible love for others, he says, also proves that we are followers of Jesus. You can wear all the t-shirts that have all the Christian slang and Christianese, whatever message you want to promote on. You can wear all the gold necklaces. You can have all the tattoos that have Christian meaning, but if you don't have the love of Jesus demonstrated in your life, are you really one of His? I mean, that's what He's saying. He said, the proof is in the pudding. It's in our lives. It's in living love tangibly. That's how people know that we're followers of Jesus. It's one thing to claim to be following Jesus. It's another thing entirely to live our lives as followers of Jesus. To live as followers of Jesus, we live a life of love, tangible love, demonstrated love. The church is a place where the body of Christ gathers. It's not a place to sit and soak. It's a place to be encouraged, to go out of here with the love that we've received and do something with it, to make a difference, to make an impact. Jesus prayed that in the prayer that He taught His disciples that we call the Lord's Prayer. He said, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And He's wanting us to make a difference and an impact. It's not just about us saying, hey, I follow Jesus, or I love Jesus, or I signed on, I've given my life to Him. It's about us doing something with that love that makes an impact and a difference in our world. That's why here at Community of Joy, we spend lots of time loving our community as a congregation in a variety of ways, and I encourage you to do it as individuals regularly. As a congregation, we're invested in Pinehurst Elementary School, our neighborhood elementary, and we find all kinds of ways to demonstrate tangibly love. We host a homeless shelter with the churches next door every winter for at least 2 weeks, and we're involved in an ongoing thing to try to address the issue of homelessness. We have the Camden Community Garden and summer lunch at the garden, all expressions of the love, tangible expressions of the love of Christ in our community. Saturday, we need you to sign up and be a part of and donate desserts and things for God's Kitchen. I'm told that they've been serving 150 to 175 people at God's Kitchen on Saturday. That's a tangible way we'll love people who are on the edges, marginalized, who are in need, who are beloved of Christ. And then on May 5th, we've got Joy Fest coming up. Well, Joy Fest was our desire to make something, do something positive in this neighborhood. We bought this building in 2007, and I don't know if you remember 2007 when we bought it, but this is the Camden neighborhood. And the Camden Neighborhood Association was this group of people who were always in the news then, and they were always fighting with city council, and it just was all negative. And so when we bought this property, I said to our leadership, we need to do something to be positive. That was before the garden, before summer lunch, before our connection with Pinehurst, before all of those things. And so what we did was we decided we were going to host a picnic, and we were going to have some famous Walt's pulled pork. And if you haven't had it, you're missing out. You're getting an opportunity on May the 5th. It's the best pulled pork around. And we've added other things to our menu over the years. But basically, we went door to door in different quadrants each year and invited our neighbors saying, hey, we're so-and-so. We're your neighbors from Community of Joy. And we want to invite you, no strings attached, to a community picnic. And we had it starts at 12:30. It's intentionally after church. We don't invite them to church necessarily. If they want to come, they're not unwelcome. But we're not notching our Bibles here, folks. We're just demonstrating love. We're just being a positive force in our community. And so we've been doing it since then. I think we had 1 year that got rained out that we didn't do, but we've been doing it ever since then. And it's been a positive thing in our community. We have neighbors that look forward to it every year. And we invite Pinehurst. Last year we had the choir come. This year we're talking about, I have to ask Mayor Day if he'll close this street. We're going to get our neighbors really mad. And have the jump rope team come and perform. Wouldn't that be cool? from Pinehurst. Just different ways to be a positive force in the community. I believe that our calling as followers of Jesus is to be love with skin on. That's why I'm constantly pushing you out the door to share love in tangible ways. It's proof of whose we are. Tangible love is other-focused, it's humble, it's demonstrated, and it's proof of your relationship with Jesus. Now on Friday, I met a lady who designs kitchens for a living. I told you a number of weeks ago that we have a friend, Sharon and I have a friend who is giving me his entire wood shop. And so we've got to figure out a way to have our house ready to receive this entire wood shop. And our garage is big, but it ain't big enough. And so we recently got a contractor to come by, and he's giving us a price on expanding our garage, increasing the size of our garage so I can make it a wood shop, and then to make Sharon happy, because we've been talking about for a long time. Now, our carpet in our family room is about 8 years past where it should have been replaced, because we've been talking about that long about redoing our kitchen. We just haven't ever liked our kitchen. And so along with that, when I get the shop, we got to do something in the kitchen that makes Mama happy. And so I invited this contractor to give me a price on that as well. And he said, the way I do kitchens is you go to this place and you talk to this person, and she comes out and measures, and you buy the cabinets from her and I install them. She'll design your kitchen. And in that process, we're also talking about blowing out a wall so we have an open concept. So she did a lot. She came by Friday to measure and begin that process. And when she walked in, she apologized because I had met her on Wednesday to set up her coming. I didn't call. I just stopped by the business and I walked in, and she said, I don't know if you realize, but when you walked in on Wednesday, I was kind of discombobulated. I didn't feel like didn't handle myself well, or you might have thought there was something funny going on. And I was like, really? I didn't notice that. What are you talking about? She said, I recognized you immediately. It's this thing called Facebook. I have some mutual friends of yours. One of them is Susie Peterson, who does summer lunch at the garden. The other one is Grace Murdoch. And she said, I see you pictured with them, and they talk about you and you talk about them. And so I knew who you were. And I have this signature cap that I wear. It's black with camouflage and has Community of Joy, and I wear it everywhere. In fact, it's in the closet there. I wore it here this morning. I wear it. It's my signature cap. And she said, as soon as you walked in, I knew who you were. And I didn't feel like I conducted myself very well, because I have this thing going on in my life that I thought maybe you would stop by to talk to me about. I'm like, wow. Well, if you want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk to you about it. We can talk now. She said, no. That's not very professional of me. I shouldn't have even said that to you, but I just wanted to explain myself as to why you might have got some weird vibes when I saw you come through my door. And I said, really, I'm happy to talk about it if you want to talk about it. She said, no. I'm here to measure your kitchen. And so let's start talking about measuring the kitchen. So we measured the kitchen, and we measured the living room, the dining room, and the family room, because she's going to do. Neither Sharon and I can envision what it might look like if we blow out this wall. We're talking about 30 feet of a wall to blow out. And so she said, I've got this computer program. I can do all of that. And then when she was done, she was about ready to leave. And I said, now, I really am happy to talk to you if there's something that you need to talk about. She was like, I appreciate that, but it's not professional of me to have even talked about it. I said, look, profession, I don't care. I work hard at blurring boundaries that we erect to keep us apart. I said, my job, my line of work, my calling in life is to engage with people, to listen to people, to support people. So if you've got something that you need to talk about, sit down and I'll sit down and we can talk about it. And so she sat down and I sat down and we talked for about 45 minutes. And she cried. And she was telling me this sad situation that her family was facing. And she was struggling with it. And she didn't have anybody to talk to. And she had been bottling it up for 3 weeks. Front page news. She was struggling big time. And I'm telling you all this because it's just it didn't cost me anything other than 45 minutes of time. And by the time we were done, I offered to pray with her. And she said, yes, I'd like you to pray. And so I prayed. And I've been praying for her and her family situation every day. Every day I walk in my kitchen. It's the first thought I have when I walk in my kitchen. And I reached out to her on Facebook and told her a couple of times. And she reached back and said, I really appreciate it. But that's what tangible love does, brothers and sisters. Tangible love finds ways to be present with people who have needs. That's what Jesus is calling us to do and be in our world. If you learn nothing else from me, I hope you learn the importance of tangible love. As followers of Jesus, He wants us to be loved with skin on. Not just to each other. Not in our holy huddles. But in the world. To go out and share love, and demonstrate love wherever we find